Call the Bay County Veterans Affairs Committee to order on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021, Bay County Building. Roll call. Let's see, we don't have Craig here. Oh, by the way, we secretary, or we have somebody taking minutes, or because our secretary is not here also.
We're sort of dysfunctional today.
Volunteers?
The old secretary?
Yeah.
You've done it before. So I guess you can do the roll call then.
Okay. Mike Pergandy,
Here.
Troy Stewart. Absent.
Excused, yeah.
Okay. Tim Eichstein. Eckstein, sorry. Marilyn, I'm here, and Vaughn Beget.
Here. We have the minutes from Mr. Stewart from the last meeting.
Motion to accept the minutes as published.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Citizens input. Step up and state your name at this time.
Where the hell do I begin here? Okay, well, Troy's not here, so I can skip that one. The other day, Marilyn left this little thing out there, ambulance. I wouldn't dare the bartender to give it to me. I don't know where these numbers come from or who. Can you explain it?
But for the transportation, how many, did you see that, Mark?
No, I did not.
Okay. I'll do my best.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Craig put this together, and he put it together for how many veterans were transported according to the years, and what the annual driver costs were for that year. And if we hired a dispatcher for $25 per day, we would be paying her $6,500 a year.
Okay, now let me stop you right there. Apparently you folks don't get to meet together very often, do you? Other than this monthly get-together? Is that true? Anybody?
No, we don't meet other than this monthly get-together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I told Mike more than one time, table that dispatcher money. Table it. Well, I don't know why it's on here yet. I'll take care of it out of my pocket. And anyhow, $6,500 a year is wrong. It should have been $5,200 a year. But regardless, that's off the table. All right? Being we're driving only 4 days a week now, we're averaging about 3 per day, maybe 4. One day we had 6. That was our most day. Our most we had in one day. Now, whether that's because people don't know we're up and running yet, I don't know. But 8 is still going to be the maximum per day. One time we had 6. We don't drive on Friday, Saturday, Sundays, or holidays. Holidays, there's 9 of them this year. Federal holidays. Probably people don't know it, but there's actually 2 New Year's holidays this year. One on January 1st, 2021, and one on Friday, December 31st, 2021. So that's 9 days you got to remove from there, too. which would be 9 times 8, 72 people maximum. But we're not going to hit like we used to. I don't see it happening. So far this month, we've had 27.
2021 is only a projected, with a
What?
$5 increase.
How could you project it when you don't know our numbers?
I'd have to ask Craig.
Craig's not coming?
We can ask Craig when he's available next month.
All right, but you can't do a projection when now we're only driving 4 days a week, maximum 8 per day. You can't do it. So I have to get with Craig, I guess, right?
No.
All right. I'm not belittling you, Marilyn. I'm just.
No, I understand.
All right. And my second thing is it possible to get a copy of the mission statement of this committee, if in fact there is one?
Yes.
There is one? Okay. Now, the third and last. Am I privy to get a copy of the budget of this committee detailing year-to-date funds coming in from grants, millage, what have you, showing where they go? I don't know if they go into a general fund or if they're dispersed here, here, and here. And then get a year-to-date copy of expenditures. Is that something that can be made public or
I
no?
believe that's all public knowledge, right?
Yeah,
On
you
our
would,
website.
you would need to submit a FOIA
Okay.
through the Freedom of Information Office.
Through Craig or who?
But right across the hall, if you go over, either Jason or Nicole can help you. There are FOIA coordinators.
Oh, down here by, I'm pointing the wrong way.
Yep, in the county executive suite.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right. And I'm still looking for the $5 for the drivers. Nothing for the dispatcher.
It's on the agenda.
Okay. Well, I'm done, thank you.
Anybody else? Public comments? Anybody else? Anybody else? Close public comment. Unless,
I guess I'm supposed to say something at this time. We have a 4th of July that'll be taking place over at the U.S. Edson. And in so doing this 4th of July service, it will be different. It's at 2 o'clock. And what we will do is we will call off the different organizations, American Legion, all those that have been deceased during COVID, and then there'll be a moment of silence, ring the bell, and then we will go through all the different service organizations, military-related in Bay County. So that will be at 2 o'clock out at the Edson on 4th of July, which is a Sunday afternoon.
thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Mr. Javisky looks like he's got something to say, but you have anything, Gary?
No, I'm just waiting for the future flag
What,
request.
could you step up to the microphone?
You gotta step up now.
Okay. Gary Javisky from PLV Post 162, also commander of the Bay County Vets Council Honor Guard. And I heard we're having trouble getting flags placed on for Memorial Day. Whatever the reason is, these are Bay County veterans that are buried at each one of the cemeteries here in Bay County. I do not have a count because they're from St. Pat's, Green Ridge, Pine Ridge, and St. Pat's, and there's no total that we can ever, unless you guys want to come out there, with us and we place the flags, and you come up with a notepad, and you can keep these, make sure you have all the names on it. Some of the graves aren't even, you can't even read them. Now, I can't see why I've been planting flags since 1990 at all these cemeteries. Never had any problem. Now, I can't see all of a sudden why we can't donate 3,000 or whatever it is for us to have flags for Memorial Day. I put them up, I take them down. I sort the ones that are good, throw away, burn the ones that are bad. For some odd reason, all of a sudden, this has been changed. And that's a disgrace for not our veterans to have a flag on the gravesite on Memorial Day, period. Now, if you don't like the way I said it, the way I did, well, that's a shame. I've never seen any one of you people plant flags on Memorial Day or take them down.
That's because you don't come out to Oak.
I got the floor.
Yeah.
We put them down on Memorial Day on the 28th, and then 2 days later, we got to take them down. So that's just my opinion. If you don't like what I said, that's too bad. But it's a disgrace that we can't have flags on the veterans markers on Memorial Day. They gave the ultimate sacrifice, whether they died in combat or whether they died just during the year.
It's on the agenda.
That's my opinion. I'm sorry if I disturbed you guys, but it has to get done for Memorial Day. Thank you.
Anybody else? Public comments? Anybody else? Last time. All right, petitions and communications. Future flag request discussion. So I think this is more about how we're going to handle it, who's going to handle it. We did pay the $3,000 from what I have heard.
$2,200. I ordered 18 gross based on the estimate I was given by Mr. Zippler and what I needed for the American Legion.
Stop. The only estimate I gave you was for the ambulance.
Oh, no, Fred, you gave me one for Vets Council. You told me.
A total of 17 gross.
No, you didn't give me that many.
I'm sure you did.
You might have said 17 gross, and when I said for who, you didn't get specific.
No, I didn't.
You didn't. So I'm not ordering 17 gross until you tell me who they're for. Okay? You told me AMVET, 6 boxes. You got 6 boxes, correct?
No, well, yeah, I didn't give one away.
You did, because you didn't tell me any for BVA.
I don't know what they got.
You told me 3 for PLAV, which you got here 3 boxes, correct?
Public comment is over. We'll have some at the end. Let's let Mr. Pergani give his report.
Okay, we got 18 gross of flags in. I gave out 6 to AMVETS, 3 to PLAV, 2 that were mine to VBA because their estimate was not given to me, 4 to Crump Legion, 1 to Gibson Township, 1 to Charlie for Colin. The American Legion normally uses 10, but I didn't have that many left. St. Anne's in Calgary got 1 box so they could cover those 2 Catholic cemeteries, which theoretically 6950 was supposed to do, but 6950 didn't request any flags. Pine Ridge, you mentioned earlier, Jane Krasinski got 100 flags to do that cemetery. What's that?
That'll be next year.
Yeah.
She got them before Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob Reeder got some for St. Anthony's in Fisherville, 50 of them. And Floral Gardens does their own. So here's the problem. And I got people were calling me to get flags 2 days before Memorial Day. Something needs to come from the county. If the county's going to do this, a paid person from the county needs to do it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Mike Pergandy is not ordering flags. Mike Burgandy is not using his credit card to pay for flags. Mike Burgandy is not having the flags shipped to his house. He's not loading them in his truck. He's not taking them to the American Legion, and he's not distributing them. So the county needs to figure out how this is going to happen, because I ain't doing it anymore. Okay?
But you were paid, correct, from the county for the, you did get the payment, from what I heard, for
The
the,
county paid for the flags, yeah. Yeah, which is fine. They do that, you know, they've done that for the past years, but it came out of the soldiers and sailors. This year it came out of the general fund, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Which, if you're going to do it, that's where it should come, and that's where it should come from, the general fund. Because for the attorney, soldiers and sailors can't be used for that. Okay? Now, so I am getting uninvolved. I'll order the flags through the American Legion, but that's all I'll do. And they can be shipped here to the county, they can be shipped to AMVETS, they can be shipped to the PLOB, they can be shipped anywhere. But I'm not doing them.
Have it shipped to the block. I will take care of it.
first we talk about the village hall also. Mark Smith has space at the village hall also, but.
Well, that brings up another thing. You know, as I'm doing this, I'm hearing, well, there's containers full of flags at the village hall. There's containers full of flags at the shed at AMVETS. There's flags everywhere in this city. How many containers you got, Fred?
Amber?
Yeah.
None.
No containers?
No. You're welcome to go see anytime you want.
Well, I'm pretty sure you mentioned something about that.
We don't pick them up, the funeral, or the cemetery picks them up.
And where do they go?
They stay out in their barn out there. They go through them and they...
Okay, so AMVETS has flags out at the barn at the cemetery.
Yeah, but I still recommend only 3 years, not every year.
I don't have a problem with that. That's all the American Legion's going to do it. And I'm going to tell the county this right now. You don't have to buy any more flags for the American Legion at Oak Ridge. The American Legion will buy flags and take care of Oak Ridge. Is that correct, Commander?
Okay, so I guess we have before Veterans Day to figure out, since we'll be putting
We don't
flags.
put them out on Veterans Day. They've never been put out on
We
Veterans
don't put them out, okay. Our
In
cemetery.
reality, if you want to honor every veteran,
Yeah.
that's when you would put the flags out.
Yeah.
Memorial Day, the
Deceased.
purpose of Memorial Day is for those that were killed in service to the country.
Our cemetery puts them out on Veterans Day also, but, by the way, I put 53 flags out, so can't say I didn't put any flags out.
We put about
Out at St. Paul Franklin Cemetery.
we put about 1,700 out at Oak Ridge.
So any other discussion? I guess the count is an issue, the count of veterans, of flags. I don't know how we get around that since there's no,
In regards to what Mike was saying, that the PLAB does pick up all the flags. From St. Stan's, Greenbridge, and sometimes Package. We sort all the ones that are no good. We put them in our totes. Totes are in the PLAB. They're all sorted, they're all completed. So that's what, we have enough, like we take them from Memorial Day, from the plow to the cemeteries, and that's what, then we put them up. And the beef, as far as I know, the ones that are at St. Pat's, the reason they're stored at Village Hall is because they don't have any other place to put them. And they store them in the barn, and they get mold on.
so I'm
It
thinking,
makes sense for your store. As long as we got them, we can put them up.
we need to look this over before, actually, we have a year actually then. So Vets Council, I'm a member of Vets Council, so I guess I'll take it back to them and see if they're willing to assume the responsibility. They represent some of the service organizations, not all of them. Unfortunately.
I really think the county needs to get involved.
Okay.
Because you've got townships that have cemeteries that have no veterans organization representing them, like Gibson Township. in Fisherville. 6950 is out that way, but they didn't do Fisherville. Now, Crump does some of the ones out there in that part of the county, but what about Pinconning? So you got cities and townships in the county that the county, as the great big poobah, needs to say, okay, all you little organizations, tell us how many flags you need for your veterans' graves, and then determine how it's going to get distributed. Is it going to be that PLAV does, Gary, you guys do St. Stan's, Green Ridge, and Soldiers Rest, correct?
Yes.
Okay. AMVETS does Elm Lawn and the Jewish Cemetery. American Legion does Oak Ridge. Charlie does Cawcallin, except he doesn't do St. Anne's, which is up in Linwood, and he doesn't do Calgary. So, somebody's got to get a handle on who's doing all this stuff.
So the ordinance actually says townships and cities, correct, are responsible for the flags.
The statute itself deals with the funding for the flags. It doesn't necessarily deal with the placement of the flags.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a statute that states if there is a cemetery that is municipally owned, then whatever municipality, being a village or township that owns the cemetery, is supposed to be financially responsible for paying for the flags and the flag markers. We have waived that because we decided that it was going to be too cumbersome for all of the different municipalities to have to try and order flags and coordinate. And so the county simply said, even though it is discretionary, the county would make the determination. Once a petition was filed asking for the purchase of flags, the county would cover the purchase of flags. The county is simply responding to a petition filed by a recognized veterans organization who is making a request for the flags. They make that petition in accordance with the statute that says this is how many flags we need because this is how many veterans we have. The county responds and it purchases the flags. But the statute does not deal with the county placing the flags. All we are is a funding source. We will fund the flags for whatever recognized veterans association or organization comes to us and asks us for that.
So the placement of flags still would fall on the townships or the church, and there may not be service organizations that are working with those groups, so I guess it falls back to the township or the city or the village and to place flags if...
And a lot of them do. Gibson Township every year gets a box of flags, and they got a young kid who drives down here and picks them up, and they pick them up when they're done, like a day after Memorial Day. So about, every year they get every 3 years they get about one box. Because Gibson's a pretty small place up there.
So I think we need to take a look at this, figure out the way to handle it, who's going to handle it, get the word out to the townships and the villages and cities that placement.
Does the county have meetings with the cities and townships in the county?
No.
No? How do you communicate with them? Email?
If there's
Or
something,
you don't? You don't communicate with them?
if there's something that they need communicated, they reach out, and we reach out likewise. But we don't have set meetings with all of the different municipalities throughout the county.
So we probably need to get a committee to look at this and draft some solutions. So Mr. Pagandi, would you like to be in charge of that committee? To divest yourself of the responsibility?
I will be on the committee.
And you can recruit whoever you need to be on the committee with you. Doesn't have to necessarily be this committee. So.
Let me think about it till next month.
Okay, all right.
Well, then,
All right, anything else?
then the best bet is, if the flags are delivered at the PLAV, each organization is going to have to give me when and how many flags they want.
Yeah.
If they fall short, it's a responsibility to find those flags. I got no problem doing it, but if American Legion wants so many, or Charlie wants so many, or the PLAV wants so many, I'll give them the flags, and I want to make sure they sign it, that they got They got exactly the number of flags they want. Other than that, they're gonna have to have to be on their own.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Next item is driver increase. So we have a request for $5 per veteran. That's what I've heard. I've heard some suggestions of per trip from some of the committee members. I think we probably still need to get some clarification on the numbers from Craig gave us to take a look at the driver increase. And if we don't have any resolutions or requests at this time, I think we need to get Craig to get some more information and answer some of the questions that Mr. Zippler had. Any other thoughts?
I have two thoughts.
Yeah.
My thoughts are, one, that it be $5 per trip, just in case they take two individuals in one trip. And my second one is that the new part-time assistant in the Department of Veterans Affairs in Mark Kazmarik's office take over the scheduling.
And we did ask him if he would be willing to do that, and he said he would. We had a meeting with him.
Those are my two suggestions.
I don't know how much time it would take. He is part-time, but is that a resolution or a motion, or we want to discuss it further?
Well, I can make a motion.
Dan?
I move that the new part-time, what's his name?
Great. Gary?
Gary?
Gary.
No, Gary, yeah, Gary's right here.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Gary, I didn't recognize you. I recommend that Gary Bowersock take over the scheduling for the driver's program.
And I think I mentioned I would not have a problem with that, but I'd have to know something about it, what time they call. And,
Yeah.
I don't know if they call you at night, they want you to pick them up in the morning.
Yeah.
They call at 6 in the morning. I have no clue what it entails,
Yeah.
but I'd sure like to see that.
What are your normal hours, Gary?
I work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 8 to 1.
Normally, when you have an appointment at the VA, you know a couple weeks ahead of time when you're going. I would recommend that the scheduling hours be the hours you work with. So they call you on your regular scheduled work time. Anybody have a problem with that? Fred, do you have a problem with that?
No, however, right now, the phone is in operation 9 in the morning to 4 p.m. in the afternoon, Monday through Friday.
Right.
I'm sorry, Monday through Thursday. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, they may get a card the day before. I get them the day before sometimes. Say tomorrow you have an appointment at blah, 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 at 2:30. If they cannot call that morning of, the morning of their appointment, you're done.
Yeah, because you don't have driver's schedule.
And you can't call after 4:30 in the evening. Because at 4 o'clock, the phone stops, and you take your list of people, and you call your driver for that day and say, Joe gonna be here, ain't Joe gonna be here, 7 or 4, like that. After 4 o'clock, you're done. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
And it's only Monday through Thursday, 9 to 4.
Like anything else, it's going to be a learning curve for the veterans that use the transportation. But eventually, they'll get used to that schedule. And you can also post it.
So is that a support? There was a motion to make
I
Mr.
second.
Bowersock the scheduler.
Second.
Support that. Any discussion on that motion? It was just that one part, right? You had mentioned the $5 per trip thing.
That's my recommendation, but it's not a
So
motion.
it includes that also then?
No.
Okay.
That's,
Just
the motion includes the scheduler.
Scheduling only.
Correct.
Any other discussion? I'll call the question on the scheduler being Mr. Bowersock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll work on transitioning. The other part is do we want, I think maybe we need to talk to Craig some more, get some more clarification on the questions he had about the budget, and then discuss that later on. This was a motion. Okay?
I'd like to get a little more on site too, if I could, down the road. You know, I retired from VA and I saw all the people, volunteers driving and bringing them, picking them up.
Yeah.
But I'm not familiar how to contact them, and all that stuff. But
Right.
yeah, if somebody wants to get with me on that too.
You working tomorrow here?
Pardon me?
You working tomorrow?
No, sir.
Thursday.
Yes, yes.
What's your hours Thursday?
8 to 1.
Do we want to set a start time to maybe July 1st or something like that to,
This might be a very good time, just in conversations that we've had with our risk assessment, our carrier, MMRMA, with regard to setting up a policy in terms of our driving program, our drivers' requirements, things that have to be checked off the boxes before we institute the program formally, with having a Bay County employee managing or scheduling that program. So I would be more than happy to put together a rough draft policy for the board to look at. You can give your input, change it as you like, basically a starting point for you to go from. But I think before you start having the employee take an active part in the transportation program, that you should have a policy in place just to ensure that we're covered through our risk assessment carrier.
right? So pending that, I defer starting it up at this point. Shelley?
When John Ventol was here, Trice Stewart and I worked on a policy, or rules and regulations for transportation. I still have what we worked on.
Okay.
Do you want me to send that to you?
If you,
I will.
if you could, that would be great. I know that there are some requirements that our risk carrier is going to require relating to screening of drivers and things of that nature. So I can make sure that I incorporate those into whatever policy you've already drafted, and you guys can do what you will with that when you get the draft.
Yes.
And I believe, didn't Crystal do scheduling also in the past?
She was a contract. She was a contract.
contract,
An
okay,
independent
right,
contractor.
yeah.
Yes.
You did a
Yep.
very good job.
Anything else on that issue? Maybe at the end, or is there something we need to move on? Make a
Part of this here, transitioning thing, the phone bill comes to me personally.
okay.
If you want to do this, I would like to appreciate getting it sent somewhere else.
Good. We can do that.
It would be sent to a county number.
All right, anything else? Engraving ceremony, maybe Mark has that.
That was my request through Craig to at least address the committee and discuss I did a quick search through the ancestry databases, courtesy of the library, for Mr. Yule's family to see if there's any survivors, relatives. As far as I can tell, both his parents are deceased. Obviously, he had a brother who passed as well, and there was a sister who may have been born but passed early on. And there are no direct survivors that I could tell. So there could be aunts, uncles, cousins, somewhere. So, and I also just want to say, I'll get back with the engraver then to have him do the engraving whenever he can. But so if you want to do a ceremony but as far as finding family, We'll have to put a general announcement out someplace to find family members.
Would probably be church members. It was really actually church members who brought the request forward. So I guess we could probably have, invite the church members to like an unveiling, just have it engraved and have it covered and then
It
maybe
was
unveil
Warren
it.
Smith who discovered it.
Pardon?
Warren Smith. Warren Smith is the one who discovered it.
Oh, yeah, right. Several of the members of the church, right, that brought it forward.
So I just wanted to give an update, just so that we knew that there was no one, at least directly related, so that I could find. It doesn't mean there aren't, like I said, cousins or aunts or uncles but there would be no children or grandchildren that I know of.
Unless some of the church members have some contact. So Warren Smith, so maybe he would be I think somebody else, I don't know, it was Keith Markstrom or somebody else mentioned it too. Possibly. Maybe we need, I'll try to reach Mr. Smith, Warren Smith, and then talk to him about it. All right. Martin, do you have any other report to give while you're up there?
Then I'd heard from Craig, and he was doing well. Some discomfort, obviously, but his surgeon was pleased, so he texted me yesterday in the afternoon. So I don't think there was anything. VA's running slow as usual. They're still, it looks like they closed about 3,000 claims this past week. Doesn't mean they did something with them or just denied them. So but and the office has been, it was kind of quiet last week. This week it's just been off the wall. I don't know if something's in the air this week that people.
They're as we had talked before, the Blue Water Navy, they're trying to do that, fast track it without having to go through like a formal.
Yeah, it's 60,000 veterans and trying to find living veterans or family or spouses or children or, because they will pay, apparently they're looking down to pay to estates if the veteran was owed. So, I mean, we're talking spouses then could be qualified for DIC payments, so how they're going to attempt to adjudicate 60,000 veterans is.
Yeah. I know they tried to contact them, send out letters to them or the family.
Yeah, so, I mean, that'll be a huge undertaking on the VAs. And they had like 16,000 Blue Water claims, as I recall, from their, they do, every Monday they do statistics based on how many claims they still have active, what percentage of them are over 125 days. And I think the Blue Water ones, they were like, out of the 16,000, there were 15,000 of them were still open. So 90% of the Blue Water claims are still.
Burn pits, I haven't heard anything on burn pit legislation supposedly going through.
No, nothing further as of yet, so.
By the way, I'm taking my C&P training right now online, 7 different modules, hour and a half for each one. You have to take a quiz at the end. It's a lot of fun. And if you're trying to figure out something that, aggravation, if you had a service-connected problem, but you had a pre-existing condition that's aggravated by that service-connected condition, then there can be compensation for that. I think you need a lawyer to do that one, by the way. It's pretty detailed, and the semantics are real important on it too. If it's pre-existing, service-connected.
In addition to pain from said pre-existing or aggravated condition.
Pain, yes.
And then they can break it down by muscle groups, they can break it down by tendons, they can break it further down to that.
That's my next module, musculoskeletal. So there are a lot of people that don't like doing those because they are so detailed, and they bounce them back to you if you don't do it right, and it's a process. So luckily, I have time to do it. Questions for Mark? Okay. Alrighty. Reports. I don't know if we want to report on the meeting on the Soldiers and Sailors Emergency Relief Fund rules and regulations. Do you want to go over that?
Yes, we had several meetings in regard to the Emergency Relief Fund for the county veterans. We put a draft for rules and regulations in red, there are some comments and deletions to take place, and the format needs to be on, I guess, Bay County letterhead. I don't know what kind of format you use, but if you read through this, anyone have any questions?
I have a comment.
Yes.
First line, delete for the purpose of creating. Just make it emergency relief fund as a fund for the relief of honorably discharged veterans. It's not for the purpose of creating.
Okay, say that again, Mike.
Delete for the purpose of creating.
Yep.
Okay, the next thing I would say is the definition of indigent. I believe DHHS has a definition for indigent, and that is under $2,000 of liquid assets.
That is for purposes of
Social Security, disability.
spend down.
Yeah,
There are many different definitions of indigent out there depending on what statute you're talking about. So there's a different one for Medicaid spend down, there's a different one for veterans relief, there are a lot of different ones.
well, what's the one for veterans relief?
Well, the one for veterans relief is the one that has consistently been used across the board, not for soldiers and sailors relief, but there's an indigent definition for when they are getting funeral payments. That would be different than what we're using here because they have an estate.
That's a pretty substantial amount of.
So I did come up with some potential language that could give you 3 different options, so you're not limited to just one definition. 2 of them deal with specific metrics. The first is whether or not the veteran is receiving one of the following types of public assistance, either being temporary assistance for needy families, general assistance, poverty-related veterans benefits, food stamps or food stamp benefits transferred electronically, refugee resettlement benefits, Medicaid, or supplemental security income.
Can we get that in writing?
Sure. And there are 3. Another one of them is a specific percentage of how much of their income meets the national average. And the third one is just sort of a catch-all phrase that is unable to pay reasonable costs for shelter, food, utilities, and transportation because his or her available funds are insufficient.
And that's open to interpretation.
That's open to interpretation.
by the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Sure. And really, if you have all 3 of these, that way you have a choice. If they meet the metric, that's great. If they don't meet the metric, you still have some leeway to be able to make a determination that that person should be considered indigent under your guidelines. So I will absolutely get these to you, and you can change them as you like.
Thank you.
Should that be in the rules and regulations? Would you advise?
Yes, I think that you should have a definitions section.
Yep.
There are a couple of other phrases in here that I think need some definition just because they're open to interpretation and you don't want to get yourself in trouble with someone
Correct.
holding your policy out saying, no, I apply, and you're like, no, that wasn't our intent.
Okay. So at the first page, everybody read that?
Yeah.
Okay, second page,
Could I ask one more question about
Yes.
the first page? I did note that one of the requirements for eligibility is that they be a Bay County resident. Is it your intention to indicate that they have to be a Bay County resident for a certain period of time before they apply for the relief? A lot of the other Veterans Affairs agencies will set a time limit. They have to be a resident of Bay County for 3 months, for 6 months, for 60 days, whatever you think is reasonable, because you don't want somebody coming over from Saginaw 2
I'd say
days later.
6 months. Yeah, you don't want a guy driving up from Saginaw County and in 2 days he comes down for assistance. I'd recommend 6 months.
okay.
Was that 6? How many months you say?
Proof of Bay County residence, 6 months.
6 months.
And also, I had a question, because I note that the definition paragraph for the purpose deals with parents of indigent veterans, and I'm not certain that parents are currently covered. I know that under the proposed legislation, they were going to be covered, but I'll look to see.
Okay, well, I got it out of Act 214 of 1899, so that.
And it's up to you whether you want to include a parent in
Okay,
that definition or not.
comments?
Next page.
Okay.
Something to think about.
Page 2, in red is Marcus Merrick will look into Walmart to procure Walmart card. Did you look into that, Mark?
No, yet, no. I do have it on my list of things to do.
Okay. And I'm saying down below to delete temporary. However, that was a motion made by the committee for it to be temporary. So would we have to make a motion to delete temporary?
Well, these aren't approved yet anyway, are they?
No.
Then I would delete temporary.
Okay.
So in your final version, just get rid of that.
All
It
right.
should say Bay County's Veteran Service Office staff is granted authority,
Yes, okay.
not temporary.
And just put in county format, and I don't know how you do
Well,
your
I-
signatures and,
I got a problem with the last sentence, threats. That is passive voice. Can't we rewrite that to active voice, like veterans will not threaten Bay County veteran staff? If so, you call 911. I mean, this is so passive, it's like, you're not going to be subjected to threats or inappropriate behavior, yada, 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 yada. Yeah.
I can change that up when I put in the definition section. Also, is there a particular reason that we're limiting to Meijer and Walmart? I mean, I know that you don't want somebody going to Gucci and buying something from Gucci and you're gonna
Where else can you buy clothes in Bay City?
for all Goodwill, you know?
Well, you can buy them at Goodwill, yeah.
yes, you could, and secondhand stores. But my understanding is that
If you're doing,
the Veterans Office only has cards.
if you're giving gift
From
cards, those
Meijer.
are the, I don't think Goodwill
But
has gift
I don't know
cards.
if you can give a monetary.
Well, the only reason that I'm looking at is because it says clothing purchases may be granted 2 times per year. To me, that is not clear as to whether or not it is you're giving a card or whether or not you're giving reimbursement. Because if I was a veteran and I went out and I bought clothing and I had receipts for it, reading this policy, I'm going to bring in my receipts and I'm going to say, I want my money. And I don't know why you would say, oh, you bought your clothes from Goodwill, we're not going to reimburse you, but if you buy them from Meijer, we will.
So,
I would put in there clothing purchases must be pre-approved.
well, that's true, but bring in a receipt. But we could take from Meijer's or Walmart out.
Okay, because I mean, if you're going to give cards just for those 2 entities, that's great, just give them for the 2 entities, but that way you don't have to limit it if it's a receipt from somewhere else. If somebody buys a coat at Goodwill, are you going to tell them that they can't get reimbursement because they bought it at Goodwill?
But, so that's the current, we have Meijer cards that we give for food or other, which we could have used for clothing. So somehow we would have to figure out can we pay directly to a veteran who has gone?
So it's a question of, you want clarification language on whether or not it's possible to reimburse as
Correct.
opposed to whether or not you're giving them the card to purchase.
Right.
Because, I mean, if you give them a Meijer card, they can go and they can spend it on anything at Meijer. They don't have to. Have to buy clothes with
Correct.
it.
But
So-
that would be a choice then if they chose to buy food or clothing for their, whatever reason they were getting food or clothing.
Okay,
So yes, clarification would be great.
Okay.
Then can we, in fact?
okay, yep.
Mr. Berkshire, you had your hand up.
That was prior. I just wanted to say, have we had an issue in the past with someone becoming violent or threatening against our staff? I don't recall that in the last 4 years, but.
I do not recall. I don't remember there being, I know that a former member of the staff has been sworn at because it was a mistake that the veteran had thought he had he had a card, but he went to use it, and he'd already used it and thought we gave him a card with no.
Yeah, okay.
So I know the former had been sworn at in the past, so.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, there's never been a physical or
Okay.
a suggestion of physical.
I just wanted to thank the committee, too, for their dedication in going over all of these issues and vetting them to make sure we have the right policies in place, be helpful to our veterans, and also say that as I've been getting around the community and stuff, I get lots of compliments about the staff in the vet's office. So I want to thank Gary Bowersock and Mark for the great job that you're doing. I think the veterans around Bay County are noticing that, we're trying to ramp up our commitment a little bit from what we did some years ago, and nicer office and a great staff, and I get a lot of compliments. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I'd hoped to get here at 3 o'clock, but unfortunately I couldn't. Yeah, Mike?
Jim, does anybody in the county have an idea of exactly how many cemeteries there are and how many veterans are buried in each cemetery? There should be some magic guy who knows all that.
Yeah, well, that's a challenge for us. We'll try to get it, Mike, but I don't think we have it currently.
Yeah.
But maybe Mr.
Interestingly enough, the burial permits come into the townships, and it is actually checked off. But the program that the townships are using, they have never marked it off. So when it comes right down to it, they've got a computer program, and that's just one piece of the program. As I've been put in charge of the Calcallan Township Cemetery, and I asked over at Calvary, and Calvary could not give me an answer either, which was really surprising. We had a work day in the cemetery, and our next work day, we are going to actually go through the cemetery and try to get a count of how many veterans are buried there. Because we can pull cards.
I would think every cemetery, the people that run it should have, hey, I got 4,828 graves and 284 are veterans. They don't.
I can show you a map of our cemetery, and it was the map they were working off of, and it's not even a valid map. Section E is incomplete. The number system was never implemented, and it's a mess. And we're not the only ones.
No.
And St. Stan's or St. Patrick's don't have.
Some of them have been abandoned and merged with other cemeteries. But, Mr. Pergandy, I agree with you. It ought to be done, and that ought to be a challenge for the next 12 months or 10 months so that we can be ready for next Memorial Day. And I want to thank both Charles, Reverend Campbell, and Mike Pergandy for making the flags happen in time. I was out to a few of the cemeteries, and those flags look nice, and it's a lot of work, and we'll have to be prepared a little earlier next year so that we don't run into a time situation. So, but thanks.
Sorry, just a quick, I have a partial list, again, through the library. I was able to get through, the Ancestry database does have the requests of VA markers, and I have about 12 to 1,500 of those that have the names and where they're buried in the cemetery, not so much where they're buried in the cemetery.
For Bay County.
For Bay County, yes. So I have a partial list, but I do not have by any means a...
But there are some veterans that haven't requested markers or gotten markers.
Correct.
Do we even actually know where all of the cemeteries are in the county?
We have a listing of cemeteries. The difficulty is some of them are privately owned, some of them are owned by churches, some of them are owned by townships, some of them are owned by villages. The county does not own a cemetery. And the difficulty is that there is no central registry for information on burial. It is all up to all of these individual private entities to keep those. They don't have any obligation to report them to the county, and they don't.
If we, as an example, Gibson Township, if we call Gibson Township and say, okay, how many cemeteries do you have? They would say 1 or 2, I would say. They would know. And then,
hopefully.
And then how many veterans are on each one? And they probably got a pretty good idea.
I think he would be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, you picked the wrong township, probably.
And I did contact the St. Stan's and St. Pat's Parish, or the cemetery office, and they have a file cabinet, but they do not have an automated list whatsoever of where or how many veterans are buried in those cemeteries. And my understanding that is through, at least for the larger group, the Diocese of Saginaw, that is the same for most of the cemeteries, at least local, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Can I make one more comment? Why don't we have Mr. Pagandi, Mark, and anyone else interested in trying to undertake a project over the next 10 months to see what we can get done? I know Amber had talked about trying to motivate Boy Scouts or something, but maybe there's a more efficient way to,
The
to
Boys,
get it done.
almost all the Boy Scouts come out and put flags out on the
No,
morning.
we were looking for somebody to do a research project, maybe for an Eagle Scout project, for their public service project.
That's way too big for an Eagle Scout project.
Yeah, I would think, yeah.
I think with our townships, if we were able to get somebody through SBSU or Delta that is trying to get into like a historical museum and they need an apprenticeship, that would be a perfect program.
Yeah,
That might be a good doctorate program, but not.
yeah. Or a master's thesis or something, yeah.
Because I know they have these 3x5 cards, but the data on the 3x5 cards is not the same data that's in the computer.
And probably not the same location that's actually in the
And that's
cemetery.
only the
so.
dead person, not the person that actually owns the lot. I'm as serious as can be. And this is the system that townships through the MTA have used. And so they get this program through MTA. And I just got a book on cemetery management. And it's absolutely crazy because they're not marking off whether or not the person's a veteran.
All right, well, who's got the list? Amber, you said you have a list?
There's a list that's
Is it in?
published on the Bay County website, I think under the GIS system that lists the number of cemeteries that are in Bay County. I don't know if that's an updated current list and if it's accurate or not.
I'm sorry.
It's old.
It's old, it's not accurate, and I actually had more than the number that you had provided.
There you
so.
go, okay.
Based on the list that I'd gotten through the library system, there are actually other cemeteries I didn't even know existed in
Yeah.
Bay County. So I'm guessing they're church cemeteries. So, and I have a partial list, so I'll be happy to share.
We're pushing up against the next meeting here, so are we done with?
I have an announcement.
Okay.
On July 31st, the Marines are going to put on an event at the Plob, Post 162, a Toys for Tots. It's going to be, anyone is invited, and they're going to have barbecue chicken or barbecue pulled pork for $10 a ticket, and when you come, bring a new toy.
Sounds good, Marilyn.
Public comment. I think Carol, you have a comment? Why don't you come up to the microphone? But you gotta make it quick.
My mom used to was a genealogist. An idea for you guys were to get names of every single person in every cemetery there is in the county, is talk with the Genealogy Society here in Bay County, because I guarantee you they will know where every single dead person is in this county.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other public comments? Old business, new business?
I have one comment.
Yeah.
3rd of July, the American Legion will have a chicken barbecue. $10 for a half a chicken. Drop by, get your reservations in with Star, because they go fast. That'll be the 3rd of July, probably 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you can pick them up. Yeah,
Big-
plan on 3.
Big fireworks
You
night.
can come down, that's the big fireworks night.
All right, motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion to adjourn?
Adjourn, yep. Any support?
Second.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.